Everybody, it's Dr. Petteruti. Welcome to Intellectual Medicine. Today we have in studio Amy. Say hi, Amy.
Hello, everybody.
Amy is from you say it, Amy. What are you from?
I'm the director of Rhode Islanders Against Mandated HPV Vaccinations and advocate informed consent.
Okay, so she's a freedom fighter, in other words, and we're going to talk about that on the radio show. The creeping mandate of the state encroaching upon your freedom of choice, encroaching upon your freedom of thought. They're making lists, and they're checking it twice to see who's behaving properly according to their definition of proper behavior. Trust me, this creeps in to your life in negative ways. If you're a provider, if you're a doctor, and you're not towing the company line, they will seek ways to harm you. There's a bias against doctors who don't support the line that's being emanated from orthodox mainstream medicine, much of which is just more in the interest of corporate profit than your health. And I can think of fewer greater examples than the HPV immunization. In the state of Rhode Island, it's been made a requirement that children be immunized against a sexually transmitted disease. In fact, that men be immunized against cervical cancer, in essence. Well, we can debate the science of the merit of the immunization all day long, but at its core is this fact. The state should not define healthcare for you. The state should not force you to take a drug or an immunization unless it's critical to the survival of the nation. And this does not meet that definition. What it's been is an absolute bonanza of profit for the company that makes this immunization. They were having trouble selling this because people really don't like it when you tell them about it. Here's Tyler, take it with me. Oh, here we come. We're about to go on air. Already I'm on a rant.
I thought you were
Already. You know, I can't stand it. I can't stand this. All right. Entertainment. Here we are. Be prepared to be entertained. Join Dr. Petteruti as he guides people towards living the 120 lifespan. 120 lifespan, that's right, baby. 120 years. Unless you're a knucklehead, then we don't want you. We don't need to extend your lifespan. Knuckleheads need not apply. Amy, you could come. We'll make you 120. Hey, we're on the air. It's Dr. Petteruti. Welcome to Intellectual Medicine. We're all in the booth here, ready to live 120 years because we're the cool people. Hey, Tyler, how am I doing? Good sound quality here? This Tyler. You're going to live to be 150, brother. You know, because you're getting so much knowledge by listening to this show. That's what you people, you need to go on Facebook and simulcast us. Am I using the right terminology here, Shannon?
Probably.
Yeah, pretty good. Because we talk during Facebook and we give incredible tips. So today's theme, we're talking about the encroachment on your freedoms from multiple sources. The loss of freedom in your daily life, the loss of freedom in your personal health choices. Now, Amy's here from No HPV. We're talking about the state forcing you to take drugs, forcing you to take immunizations. Now, listen, people, let's be clear. The state has a role in protecting the public from pandemics, the bubonic plague. If there's a threat to civilization as we know it, then the state has a responsibility to get involved. We're not talking about that level. What we're talking about is minutia. They want to make lists of you. They want to record your behavior. And if you're not behaving the way they want you to, your name's going to go on a list, a little list. This is happening. This is happening, and you need to be aware of it. So we're going to talk about that list, how you can prevent it from happening. Look, the price of freedom is vigilant attention to your freedoms, and you must fight for them. And we're here fighting with you. We're Intellectual Medicine. Shannon, can we announce our new sponsor now?
You can.
Our new sponsor is you. We are soliciting you, the rank and file, the citizens who listen to the show, to be sponsors, to join us. You know, Amy, when I was growing up, my mom always told me, be careful of the coat holders. You know what a coat holder is? They're the because I was always getting involved with things growing up. No shock there, right? Yeah. I mean, you saw an issue, and you could either watch it happen or you can engage. So I tended to engage. Said, Steve, be careful of coat holders. The other ones say, yeah, man, you're right. Go get them. I'll hold your coat here while you go get in that fight.
Yeah,
Covered with blood.
Yeah.
So people, don't be a coat holder. Now, here's the deal. We have never taken sponsorship from anybody. We've contemplated it. Okay, we've tried really hard. Actually, this is I'm giving a speech at the World Conference on Anti-Aging. It's a talk. It's on vitamin C and its role in secondary cancer prevention. And I am also going to be talking about liquid biopsies. These are avant-garde areas of medicine that we'll be talking about, that we do talk about, that are available to you right now. In fact, we're going to talk about it today. We're going to talk about the lost generation of men and women who are being deprived access to their hormones without any supportive evidence that makes it such a threat. Look, here's a philosophy that we hold. Every man and woman at some point in their life either needs to be placed on hormones or they're going to suffer a negative consequence. Now, we've got the facts to back this up, and we're going to share those with you. A lost generation, why? Because medicine as an institution doesn't really value your health. They value disease because that's what makes money. They value forced interventions that compel doctors to prescribe drugs. Medicine is degraded into drugs, surgery, and interventions that make money, and not necessarily with your best health outcome in mind. Now, let's pause for a moment because we have to define our terms. What is health?
Right.
Is health the absence of disease? Maybe not. So we have health as a personal commodity that varies depending on what you value. So let's talk for a moment about immunizations, Amy. Since tell everybody though what your title is and what your organization is about.
Sure. So my name is Amy Gardner, the director of Rhode Islanders Against Mandated HPV Vaccinations, and also advocating for informed consent. So we are specifically fighting the mandate of 7th grade students in Rhode Island to have to get the HPV vaccine in order to go to school, basically, and also to be given informed consent regarding any form of a medical procedure, and we fight those things.
That's great. So Amy, folks, she's a freedom fighter, and she's fighting for your freedom. Now, most of us are too damn busy to think about this stuff. Amy's really busy, but she thinks about it anyhow. And here's how it works, right? You're slamming busy. You've got to buy clothes for your kid. You're sending him to school. You go to the doctor. The doctor says, your child needs this immunization or else they can't go to school. You have two choices. Take the shot or get into a debate with your doctor who is biased in favor of giving you that shot, whose practice is being monitored and watched. And the doctor may well receive a negative consequence if the doctor does not administer the right amount of vaccines. Isn't this true, Shannon? Because we've seen that.
It is. Well, they get paid for it.
They get
It goes
bonuses.
by percentages. It does.
So behind the scenes, you have the state of Rhode Island, one of the only states in the union, only two in the union? Is Rhode Island the only one that requires the HPV for children?
There's three. I
There are
wasn't sure
three.
where you were
Okay,
going
there are
with the
three in the
question
union.
at first.
Rhode Island's been a pioneer, however, and by golly, the company that makes this immunization loves Rhode Island.
Merck.
Is it Merck? I will bet. Now, I'm just going to go out on a limb. I'll bet you could trace some money flowing somewhere into the state from Merck.
I don't know about from Merck, but the year it was mandated in 2014 was the same year that the Department of Health got over a $600,000 grant to market the HPV vaccine.
$600,000 grant to market the HPV. That's great. So now the state is doing the advertising for the company that's forcing our children to get this shot that is a sexually transmitted disease. Look, let's set aside the science on the HPV immunization. We're talking about your freedom. And at what point are you going to... Now, there's a new challenge, and I testified against this bill. Mm-hmm. The bill would require doctors to report you to the federal government so they can keep a list of the immunizations you've acquired. They want to keep a list.
And it's
Why?
auto-enrollment, so you don't get a choice as to
You don't
whether
get,
or not.
it's forced enrollment. So without your consent, your name is being sent to Washington and is being kept on a computerized list.
It's an ISS, right? An immunization system tracking. It will go to the Rhode Island Department of Health, which also, in collaboration with other states, is monitoring via the CDC.
So the state now can monitor your medical decision making. Why? What benefit does this bring? They've argued that, well, in the event of a bubonic plague outbreak, we can pull up this list and it will help us. Help you do what? Send out the immunization police to bang on doors for people that aren't immunized? You're going to keep a list that's never been shown to help health, that's never been shown to help prevent the spread of disease, but you're doing it because you can, because you have the computer capacity to do it. And because you can, you think it's a good idea that you should, because you're the state and you know better than people what they need to do. Here's the basic premise, folks. Follow the connections. You're too stupid to make your own decisions. We'll make them for you. Roll up your sleeve and take the shot. And just to protect you against your own stupidity, we're going to make a list. And in that list over here in this corner are going to be all the people who choose not to do what the state wants them to do. Do you trust them to have that list? I don't. I've stood up and I've been public in my opposition to this encroachment on your freedom. Make no mistake about it. There's a bounty on my head. And I am serious.
Yeah, mine too. I'm
There's a bounty on my head, and we've been warned by listeners, be careful, Dr. Petteruti. Doctors like you tend to be killed. Now, they don't kill us with a shot to the head. They kill you by trying to damage your reputation with falsehoods, and they kill you by taking away your capacity to have a livelihood. So we are fighting off complaints from some administrative types because of what we say and what we believe. We're fighting those complaints. They're real. We spend thousands every month in legal fees. We want you to be a partner with us. But Amy, we need to take a short break. Then we're going to come back and I'm going to tell you about the lost generation and why you shouldn't be a part of it and why everybody needs their hormones. And we're going to talk about what? We got to talk about UHIP again. You know, you don't collapse a great civilization with one bad decision. It takes a series of them, and we're in the midst of that series. I'll tell you all about it when we come right back. I'm Dr. Petteruti. This is Intellectual Medicine.
But yeah, like the very first, like maybe 10 words of the show, I was having a lot of trouble hearing you, but it corrected itself.
Okay.
Basically, right when you said, "Am I sounding okay?"
Okay.
Whether it's a ride to local,
Yeah, I don't know. If it's something I can do better, you let me know. Otherwise, you'll fix it.
anywhere, anytime.
I didn't hear a word you said.
Yeah, if there's anything I can do better, you'll let me know.
You know it.
All right. Hey, everybody. We are taking a little gap here. So the lost generation we'll talk about when we come back. And the lost generation I'm talking about,
Can you scoot that screen over? I can't
Which
see
one?
this one.
where do you want it scooted? To the right or the left?
That way.
That way?
Between this screen and this thing, I can barely see your face.
Let me just pivot that like so. How's that? Is that better?
Better. Much
Can you
better.
see Amy too?
Yep.
Hey everybody, you want to see us, this is important. So the lost generation has to do with the fact that people are allowed to passively age and decay because of inert activity on the part of organized medicine. They don't recognize aging as a modifiable event. Can I brag about being 60? Can I? I'm gonna brag about it, man.
I think it's funny that you're asking to brag versus just bragging.
Oh, cool. I'm like, oh, stop.
When we talk about the state controlling things, you know who runs the show around here. Right? So really, though, people, I should say this on there. I'm going to be 60 years old in May. I never felt better. I started hormones when I was 48. I do my IV therapy every month. I take the array of supplements that align with anti-aging. Why? Because we know what aging looks like, and it's ugly. Everything withers. You shrink. Your brain slows down. Your energy diminishes. Your vitality diminishes. Your genitalia wither. Your bones thin. This is not hypothetical. This happens unless you do something about it. And the something about it is combining anti-aging interventions, including hormones, that are currently under threat because the federal government is trying to prevent compounding pharmacies from making hormones. They're declaring after decades of success helping people change their lives that somehow they're too complicated to make and they shouldn't be made. The lost generation. We'll tie that in. Should we talk about Brunei, UHIP? How about
That's what you
the
hit.
firefighters? All these things kind of connect. All right, we're back. I'm Dr. Petteruti. We're having too much fun here with Amy, folks. Stay with us. So this is where we connect things because nothing happens in isolation. What does tend to occur is we're so busy focused on surviving, we don't have time to tear this apart. And unfortunately, Rhode Island has become a monopolistic state politically. There is
Oh, for
absolute concentration of power. And when power concentrates, power becomes corrupted. Not necessarily in the form of taking kickbacks,
Well, lacking accountability.
they lack accountability, you're right. Nobody is there to put a light on their behaviors that are robbing you of your vitality. So let's move the camera back a little bit, right? In one corner, you've got the state mandating immunizations and all of us passively flowing down the river. Well, what comes next? Hey, if they get away with this, don't think the other pharmaceutical companies aren't watching. And they're going to be weaving in their mandates next. How about this? Mandated statin drugs for everybody with diabetes, everybody over the age of 50. The studies show that they will reduce your heart. The studies are, a lot of them are garbage studies, but produced by the pharmaceutical companies and biased in their publication. I'm not negating all studies, but they need to be looked at. They need to be looked at, and here's why. Let's back that camera up and connect things. Corruption in power. Duke University. Did you hear about this one, Amy?
Yeah, the
$120 million fine. Why? Because they were fudging results on studies to get money from the NIH. They were lying about studies to make the outcomes look better than they were so they could get more money. That's terrible. You know, and as a consumer, this is why you need to be our
Misuse
sponsor because
grants.
we blow light on these subjects, including your financial health. In Venezuela right now, there's a political and economic crisis. It's not shocking to find that their health care is corroding rapidly. Health care is not as much about drugs and surgery as it is about food, shelter, and your quality of life. People in the blue zones, like in Costa Rica, outlive us both in duration and quality of life, and they don't have a sophisticated healthcare system. What they have is better infrastructure of nutrition and wellness. So let's look at how yours gets corroded. The UHIP crisis, Providence Journal Bulletin. Guys, another thing you can do besides, and by the way, if they sponsor us at $100, if they support us, what do they get?
Oh,
Tell 'em.
signed copy of your book.
A signed copy of my book that you should read. It's called The Cancer Machine. It's a fabulous...
You really didn't talk about the whole sponsor thing. You kind of said, and then you kind of went off the topic.
Okay, well, yeah.
You should really talk about it.
All right, so here's how the sponsorship thing works. At our Facebook, there's a button.
Our
you can-
website,
at
at
our
our
website. Okay. Well, tell them about it, Shane. You know about it better than I
On
do.
our website, the top left, Intellectual Medicine 120, IM-120, however you want to get there, there is a blue button. It says donations.
They can push the blue button,
They can.
and then what happens?
read about joining us in our mission.
Okay, here's our mission. It's to advocate and defend your freedom of healthcare choice. That money goes 100% to our legal defense fund that we're burning about $5,000 to $10,000 a month on, and it also goes to keeping us on the air. The state would prefer that we not be on the air. In fact, they're actively trying to shut us down, and we kind of like being on the air. This is sort of fun for us, and we think it's important for you that we get these messages out. So come join us. $100, you get a signed copy of my book. It's a fabulous read. It's way better than Healthy Holly. Have you heard about Healthy Holly?
That's one I haven't. No.
Oh my goodness. So this is why we don't take sponsors and we won't take money from corporate entities. Healthy Holly is a book written by the mayor of Baltimore, and it was self-published. It's a children's book. Do you know she has sold $700,000 worth of her book? She must be a brilliant author. She must be right up there with Dr. Seuss. No. It turns out
Sounds like somebody marketed that.
$500,000 of the sales went to the University of Maryland healthcare system, a private, multi-billion-dollar industry that she is partially responsible for overseeing. My goodness, people, can you trust the source? The head of the CDC had to step down because of investing money in pharmaceutical companies, in tobacco companies.
Yep, in stock in them.
Yeah, and she's the author of the authority overseeing them. When she was in charge of healthcare in Georgia, she took $1 million from Coca-Cola help promote obesity prevention. Are you kidding me? That's like taking money from the Median drug cartel to try to reduce drug addiction. So here we are. The UHIP crisis continues to give us gifts. $60.8 million in double payments to nursing homes. $11.6 million paid to dead people. This is your money that's being siphoned away by this colossal blunder. And their reward for this, Deloitte got extended by our governor because they did such a bang-up job. Because they're what? They're too big to fail? They're too big to fire? I'm sorry, I can't support that. It's a horrible decision. Here's another legislative detail to watch. The state of Rhode Island, there's currently a bill working its way through that would lower the standards for overtime for firefighters. Now there's a national standard for overtime that we have to currently adhere to. They're going to make it easier for firefighters to dip into overtime. Here's the problem. Now firefighters are a noble breed of people. They have important work to do and we honor their work. However, when it comes to manipulating state law to increase income, this is a pure political money grab. And you link these things together, people, and what happens next is your taxes go up and up and up, and your freedom gets encroached upon because you have no money. No money, no choices. So in 2017, again, according to this news item from Turn to 10, one Providence firefighter earned $178,000 in overtime. 30 of them earned $70,000 or more in overtime. I don't think there's an issue here with making sure they get enough money for overtime. Why would you codify it in state law and make it easier than it already is? They have a strong union. This should be left to the towns to dictate and to negotiate.
Exactly.
By making it a state law, you tie the hands of every town in Rhode Island. It's not a direct tax increase today. It's an indirect tax increase that's going to hit every town and city in the state of Rhode Island in the years to come and forevermore, because they can manipulate their overtime and suck money out of you without you doing anything about it, because now it will be a state law. This is what happens when the same power structure goes unchallenged. There's nobody out there to bring these issues to light except for us, the Journal Bulletin, and you people. You need to tune in and you need to lobby and you need to communicate with your state house. These type of things just can't keep happening. Let's talk about, though, the lost generation. Let's connect this dot. The federal government is seeking to make it unavailable for you to get your compounded hormones. Why? They think that the hormones are too difficult to compound, and therefore they should only come from Big Pharma. And they're trying to make it harder for compounding pharmacists to make bioidenticals. Now, I told you already, every man and woman should be on hormones at some point in their life. Now, this is not prevailing standard of care medicine. It's way beyond that. We're talking about advanced health. I was just bragging about me turning 60. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to turn 60 in May. That's right. You can wish me happy birthday. I'll send you a book. And I've never felt better, and I practice what I preach, including hormone therapy, including intravenous support to help my health, to help make my body less hospitable toward cancer, to do things to prevent progression of heart disease. I had a calcium score done, which was 0, no calcium deposits on my arteries. I had a pulse wave velocity, which showed that my arterial age is equivalent to that of a 35-year-old. My percent body fat is logging in at 10, and I can bench press 300 pounds, and I can run the 40-yard dash in 4.27. No, I can't do that.
Yeah, I was like, that one doesn't sound realistic.
I can't do that. The point here isn't to say, aren't I wonderful and aren't I better than anybody else? That's not the point. The point is we need to be the best version of ourselves. And that means going beyond waiting for disease to happen and then taking a drug. That means being like our patients, being like the others that have enlightened themselves and are pursuing anti-aging therapy. That means taking charge of your health. That means not having it forced on you by the state. And there are other ways the state forces it, not only by imposing immunizations, but by taking away choices. They eliminate a choice by eliminating the doctors that offer those choices. I'm going to talk to you about the subtle way and not so subtle way they do it. And we're going to highlight some important research and advances, because I'm hearing you out there. I hear what you're thinking. What about cancer? What about hormones and cancer? Don't they cause cancer? We're going to tell you about that, but we have to take a break from the Revolution Soft Wash News Center. And by the way, we had our house soft washed, didn't we, Shannon?
We did.
The roof.
Yeah.
It came out great.
It did.
People say they wash houses.
Yeah, and we don't get paid for that. Like,
We
we're not
didn't
getting-
get paid for that. We
Yeah,
paid
just
full
actually-
retail price.
We did.
Full retail price,
terrible
but we
at
still.
this whole
That's
thing.
right. Can't we do? There's got to be a way. Get a little payola. All right, but up next is Doug Lizette. Doug, what's happening out there? No, we're happy to pay full retail price, right? It's true. There's no such thing as a free lunch. You show me somebody buying you lunch, I'll show you somebody buying your influence.
Yes,
Whether or not you believe it. Whether or not you believe it.
And that's a huge pharma thing right there, showing up, the pharmaceutical rep showing up with the tickets
Showing
here
up,
and the
yeah.
lunch there.
And I wonder if any of that ever happened. I wonder if Merck ever like took everybody from the Department of Health out to dinner for an educational format. I wonder if they ever got like,
Well, the previous CDC director
yeah,
is now the head of the Merck immunization department.
how about that? Yeah, how about that?
Immediately after the HPV vaccine.
Yeah, I'm going to
was
want you to
approved.
say that when we come back on air because that creeps me out. Because what's happening right now? If you're the governor of Rhode Island, what are you doing right now? You're thinking about your next job because your job is about to end, and it's not an
She
accident.
already put out there that she's interested in running for president in the future.
Oh, good lord! Yeah,
She's-
because
I don't know that she's doing it, but she definitely stated interest. in it.
because Rhode Island is such a model for the country with our robust economy, our shrinking population. A third of the state is on some form of welfare or some form of state aid.
Assistant, yeah.
1/3 of your state. The remedy to this is not to expand the budget to pay more for welfare. The remedy is to grow the economy so people come off the dole. But somehow that detail gets lost on the politicians. We'll talk about the British. We're going to talk about a couple of articles, Shannon, when we come back, supporting what I just said about hormones being
I don't have any
valuable.
We should probably.
What's that?
You didn't send them to me.
Yeah, I did.
We should
They're all there.
probably throw
don't have
out
any.
the.
Did I email it?
No.
I didn't send it yet. It's all loaded.
We should probably throw out the bill numbers and the website so people
Oh, yeah.
can go
Yeah.
to the
I'll let you
committee,
do that.
Send the committee emails.
You know what it is? I'll do it right after the show.
Okay.
It's in my email as a draft, but it's all loaded.
What can they go to? I'll get it ready.
2019 dot nohpvmandateri.com. I just created a shortened URL to get direct. We'll send committee emails.
We also do
Wait, Google it. 2019-no HPV mandate.
.com. HPVmandateri.com.
Got it.
so we're gonna have a
Contact now buttons.
we'll have a Facebook Live event at my birthday. Facebook Live event for my
When's
birthday.
your birthday?
For your birthday?
Yeah, we're gonna have the bench pressing Facebook Live event.
When
not?
is it?
May 24th.
I'm the 27th.
For real. I wonder why we're such troublemakers.
You wanna? Do you wanna actually like be doing it live? Is that your You
What
wanna
I'm
be like
thinking.
at the gym?
At the gym
Like
live.
live. Oh my gosh.
I mean,
I don't
you know.
know. I don't know if I can do that.
Yeah, well, it's better that than the 40-yard dash.
Well, true. That is true. Yeah.
Yeah, because then what, you have to keep up with the camera?
Yeah. It won't be hard. I can just walk like right on the side. You know? Oh, that's too funny. Whatever you want to do.
Aw. You're the best.
Oh, Nancy's the 23rd. There's a lot of May birthdays out there.
Oh, we're
Really?
people commenting on
I don't know, so much to talk about. It's such a challenge. You know, the state of Rhode Island is in such jeopardy because it's an echo chamber up there. They all agree with each other. They all trade favors for outcomes, and there's no counterbalance.
No, there's no account. Well, especially our Department of Health. It feels like with the amount of things I've looked into and tried to combat, like it's like nobody checks them. No, there is no balance.
There's no balance. The Department of Health is a dictatorial entity that has total power, and nobody challenges them. They operate with impunity. And they go after doctors who aren't doing what they want. and they scrutinize them in a biased way. I'm really tired of these police busting the prostitutes. Like, leave the girls alone, would you please? Are there not better crimes to go after?
Yeah, no, it's not like somebody's holding them down and forcing them.
We're staking out spas. Really, we're not talking about people on the street. We're not talking about people enticing minors. We're talking about well, consenting adults.
Yeah, exactly. Consenting. That's the word. Consent.
Whatever happened? Yeah, the freedom fighter. 10 seconds.
Find your nearest office at libertytax.com. Be sure to beat the 15. Liberty Tax. Live your life. Taxes.
Now, back to intellectual medicine with Dr. Petteruti. Calling now at 438-WPRO or 1-800-321-WPRO.
Hey everybody, we're back. It's Dr. Petteruti. I'm in booth with Shannon and with Amy from the No HPV Mandate Movement, what I call the Freedom Fighter Movement. We're talking about your freedom. You know, it occurred to me one of the ways that freedom gets corroded is through the delegation of legal power to bureaucracies.
Yes.
So you look at now the mayor of Warwick, Mayor Solomon, who I don't know anything about this, but he got pulled up in front of the board. They have a board for car salesmen. Like, what? You need and apparently he violated, or allegedly violated, some rule regarding the sale of used cars. Now, don't we have, I don't know, an attorney general? And don't we have laws? And aren't citizens and business people accountable to those laws? Every time they create a department of bureaucracy, that department is empowered to make rules. Rules have the weight of law, and they have no accountability. This is how it works. I know how this works in the Department of Health.
Yep.
First, they target a behavior they don't like. Then they generate their own complaint. They don't need any input from the public. They can do this on their own. Then they investigate the complaint. Then they make up the rules that help interpret what they just investigated. Then they render a decision and dispense a punishment with the power and weight of law. They take doctors' licenses from them. They fine them. They reprimand them. Then the doctor can appeal that to the Department of Health. They then hear their own appeal. It's an echo chamber. The power circulates. And I can tell you it's gotten more and more and more out of touch.
Yep.
And they are targeting behavior they don't like rather than behavior that is dangerous. If you see a doctor that's ever been reprimanded for poor record keeping, rest assured there's more to the story than just how they wrote their progress note.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Typically, they go after a doctor, like if they're doing Lyme disease treatment, if they're not immunizing properly, I don't know, if they're practicing intellectual medicine, perhaps. And they just randomly, we just decided we'd audit 8,000 charts and look at them, and just to make sure you're doing everything okay. And oopsie, we found out that your note's not adequate. Instead of going after the core issue, they don't want to be seen as dictating to doctors how to practice medicine. So they can fake like they're not really corroding freedom of choice for our patients while they torture doctors that step out of line, and every other doctor takes note.
Yep.
Dr. Edoro is a colleague who's doing bioidentical hormones in Coventry. And Dr. Edoro was doing them for our patients.
He was for years, and
For
all
years.
of a sudden,
He left the
now
state.
He left.
Yeah, well, he got whacked with a reprimand for poor record keeping. Are you kidding me?
I'd love to know all the functional medicine docs in Rhode Island and how many of them. What's a percentage?
Well, they all live in
have
fear.
gotten- Well, I know.
They all
I
live
know.
in fear because, the knock on the door can come anytime, anywhere. And look, at poor record keeping, it's like citing your teenage son for having a messy bedroom. You go in and inspect it. Doctors are swamped. Now, one other detail, Amy, that takes doctors' freedom away. How many of you have been to the doctor and been dissatisfied with the texture of the encounter? It felt rushed. The doctor seemed to pay more attention to the computer than to you. Did not really solicit your primary concern, was too busy banging the keyboard. You know what's going to happen if this bill goes through that requires doctors to report you to the federal government regarding your healthcare behavior? More time by the doctor entering data rather than addressing healthcare. And they make it seem like it's
getting
nothing.
tracked that much more, just as much as the patient. Like them.
Oh, they're tracking the doctors, you bet.
Well, I mean, yeah, the database purpose is more for the patient, but it's going to track which doctor didn't make the patient do what needed to be done.
Right. So the doctors are going to be tracked as well. You're correct. And the doctors are going to go on that list, and it becomes part of a biased investigatory stimulus where the doctor's not behaving properly. You know what? And if we want the population to act like sheep and all behave the same, all we need to do is find out the people that stick out. So I'm going to go to Amy and I'm going to take my gun out, I'm going to pop her right in the head. I'm going to say, you see, but you don't have to worry about that, people, because you're good. Amy was bad, so she got punished. How do you think it affects observed trauma to other doctors when they're seeing this occur? They say, oh, screw it. I'm just going to give the HPV. Oh, the hell with it. I'll just put you on a statin drug because it's what they're telling me to do.
Right. It takes the patient-doctor relationship.
Well, patient-doctor relationship is being co-opted. So now medicine is vertically integrated. Primary care has become just a gatekeeper in many situations, just part of a hierarchy. I maintain that primary care doctors should be legally required to be independent entities, should not be allowed to work for any corporate or hospital concern, because it automatically robs them of freedom of choice. Look, if you're working for, I don't know, Hospital Inc., and you're not funneling patients into the machine, and you're not generating profit by ordering studies and imaging, you're not going to be hired very long. You're not going to speak with the same authority you otherwise would if you were independent. This is legislation we should put forth. Damn it, I'm going to have to, I don't want to do this, but I might have to be governor just to fix shit.
I don't think you can curse.
It's
but,
just, I can say that. That's not a curse word. I can't say that. I got vetoed. Sorry about that, gang. This is live radio. It's like, I'm an amateur. All right. So,
Governor, you got to raise money for that.
well, yes.
We're not really good at that.
We're not.
No.
Yeah, but we don't take like bribes. That's good, right?
That's I don't know. Is it?
All right. So here we need to talk about the lost generation. Women, please stop living in fear. Women have been neglected. They're allowed to totter into middle age. They get heavy. They lose energy. Their sex drive goes away. Genitalia dry up. They start leaking urine. They go to the doctor. Their brain's getting dull. Their mood is getting uneven. The doctor says, well, that's just what happens. You're in good health. Your cholesterol looks good. March on. We see these women every day, and we help them. Because here's the truth. The British Medical Journal, no increased risk of death in women on hormones versus those not on hormones when comparing heart disease or cancer or all cause. No increased death from cancer in women on hormones. 2018, the journal Menopause. All these articles, where will these articles be later today, Shan?
Some on our website if they're pertaining.
Okay, so yeah, Shannon will load them all on. You guys can read them yourselves. 2018, estrogen therapy associated with a lowered increase of breast cancer. That's right, a lowered increase. Journal of the American Medical Association, 2017. 18-year study following women on hormone therapy. No increased risk of heart disease or cancer. So why are we depriving women of access to bioidentical hormones? Why do doctors object? Because of collective, I believe, bias and a lack of insight into all of these other studies and a lack of sensitivity toward the patient. Patients have a right to make these choices. It's called risk-benefit ratio. And we have women in our practice that have had breast cancer that are on hormone therapy. That is against technical medical advice. But it's a choice women get to make based upon informed consent. It has to do with something, a little detail we call quality of life. And who defines quality? Apparently the Department of Health can define it for you if you let them.
Yeah, I was going to say, but
If you
it's
let
you,
them,
yourself.
They will tell you what quality is. They'll tell you what health is, but we advocate for your right to make that choice. Well, if you go to 10 docs in a row and they all tell you shouldn't be on hormones, but you want to be on them, you need an outlet where it can be honestly reflected and administered in a safe manner. And by the way, estrogen and testosterone should never be taken orally. Unless it's a birth control pill, that's a different scenario. But for anti-aging purposes, and anti-aging, I have to tell you, is not an FDA-approved term. It is not an acknowledged aspect of orthodox medicine. Therefore, there's no technically FDA-approved role for hormones in anti-aging intervention, but by golly, they sure as hell work. And we do it all the time. It's called off-label. Guess what, people? That's what we used to call the art of medicine. Taking science and applying it to your wellness right now. So yes to your hormones. Even when you're still menstruating, women lose testosterone when they're still menstruating, and they feel awful in many cases. If you're having mood disorders, the first consideration in our view is evaluating hormones, not Prozac therapy, even though in some cases that may be necessary. Now, when we come back, we're going to talk about, look, if you have a prostate gland, or you know anybody who does, then you want to stay with us, because I'm going to tell you why you should never lose your prostate gland through the span of your life, even if you have prostate cancer. I'll give you that opinion and the facts that support it when we come right back. This is Intellectual Medicine. We'll be back in a couple minutes.
So just be sure to watch the language and whatnot.
Didn't you only say
What the
shit?
station fine is for an F-bomb?
Oh,
For an F-bomb? I didn't say any F-bombs, right?
Well, I know you didn't. I'm just making sure you know, like, how. So the FCC for one F-bomb fines a station. Get ready for this: $325,000.
Professional product expert at your service.
that seems a little.
How much does
Right.
The vernacular word
Shit, 'cause
for
that's what you
human excrement cost?
I don't know, but since it's that much for the F-bomb, I imagine it's all hit the dump button.
All right, but I'll tell you this. I'm a doctor. We're talking about biological function,
I know.
right?
You know I'm on team intellectual.
Can I say words like penis and vagina?
88988.
Yeah, you're just saying words.
I don't know. Somebody might be
Not-
offended.
Not things considered curse.
I just gotta make sure that I pass the message along on
Yeah.
and whatnot. I hit the dump button, which erased that, hopefully.
Okay, nice job. I will be more aware of profane language.
Yeah, sounds good. It's mostly because we don't want to see the station get hit with a fine that is my salary for the next 50 years.
Wow, huh?
Over a
325.
quarter of a million.
I feel like people write it all the time. You know, or like things are. I don't know. I guess not.
Well, you know, it
Mean world.
speaks to what I was just reflecting upon, which is the state through bureaucratic interventions creating rules that have the power of law, including the negative effect of it. So the Federal Trade, or the FTC? Is that he said?
FCC.
FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, is deciding what your little ears can absorb and what they can't. And I guess because we're broadcast over, children could theoretically be listening.
I think that's all they regulate, though, is curse words. I think that's all you get fined for. Like, obviously he can verify that,
Yeah,
but
yeah, I think you're right. I think they're less to do about content. So political content is kind of protected, but we get challenged when we talk about medical topics because they're considered not to be standard of care. And so one of the complaints against us at times has been we're promoting things that are not in keeping with the orthodoxy of medicine. And we advocate that we're educating.
Do you see the button? Do you see the button near your talkback that says dump?
Yes, I do.
So that's also another backup if it ever slips out again, and you're like, oh crap, bam.
More time in the rain,
Got it.
sleet.
Yeah, I got to be careful there. But anyhow, it's the separation between politics and medicine is gray and sometimes non-existent. Like you're talking about HPV, is it a medical or a political topic? Well, it's both, because that which affects our lives has political implications and vice versa. So for us to be able to talk, as we're going to, about alternatives to conventional therapies, I think is our raison d'existence. And if we're
we're on the last segment too, right? So we still have to throw out that website.
yeah, we'll
Yeah, because I already posted it. So.
Did you? Okay. We'll make sure you get that in. And we'll talk about prostate cancer. When we come back, I'll do the prostate cancer first, and we'll have you bring in the website.
Just so that people can take action.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if they're hearing about it, so they
right.
can do something about it.
Right. Hopefully.
This is fun. You're a good guest.
Thanks. I used to have my own radio show.
Yeah, well, you know, it could happen. You should check out
Well, I
the.
wa-
No,
not.
she used to have it.
Yeah, I did it for
Oh, you did?
I did it for 8 months, but my show was politics specifically. And
That's.
that was intense.
We have a
Yeah.
Facebook Live show on Wednesdays
Yeah,
at noon.
yikes.
I noticed you guys started that.
Now, back to Intellectual Medicine with Dr. Petteruti. Call in now at 438-WPRO or 1-800-321-WPRO.
Hey, everybody, I am back. Shannon, I'm going to die with my prostate in me.
I know you will.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, because I've been tracking this. Now, here's the thing. Prostate cancer is one of the most common cancers amongst men. Imagine being told that you have prostate cancer, and this happens every day, and your first reaction logically would be, okay, what are we going to do about that? And suppose the doc said, well, nothing. There is no treatment known to be terribly effective. You're going to have to just live with this. Well, doctor, what can I do? Well, you know, just wait and watch. It's called watchful waiting. It's a term used in medicine, which means, in essence, do nothing. It's a way that doctors can get billed for, well, doing nothing. Now, sometimes doing nothing is the best thing you can do. Now, Mike Bennett, he's a Colorado senator. He's a presidential candidate, recently diagnosed with prostate cancer. He's opted to have his gland removed. Now, this makes political sense for him because in the lay public's mind, he will be, quote, cured, end quote, from his cancer. Now, stay tuned. I'm going to tell you why that may not be such a wise decision for many patients. Now, every individual has to make their own call. And we are strong advocates of your freedom of choice. Freedom of choice means you have outlets for information, for rational decision making in a collaborative manner, and support for a decision that you may make that does not flow in the mainstream of medicine. Now, here is an inherent bias. In most urologists' eyes, prostate cancer needs to be surgically excised. They're not bad people. The advice is not wrong. It's just not fully validated. And it's only one option. Look, we were talking before about primary care doctors and their loss of freedom by virtue of being employees of corporate entities. Imagine that I'm an employee of Hospital Inc. And imagine Hospital Inc. just spent $30 million on a new Da Vinci robot for removing prostate glands. And imagine Hospital Inc. just did a prostate cancer screening program and put up poster boards and has spent $100,000 on marketing prostate cancer because we're going to make a lot of money taking out glands. That's what we do. That's how we make our money. Now imagine a study came out that demonstrated, okay, you don't have to imagine because a study came out, and we're going to post it. The Pivot study looked at two groups of people. They both had prostate cancer. One group had their glands surgically removed. The other group opted to have nothing done. Now, you would imagine if you have cancer and they take out your gland, your prostate gland, you're not going to die from prostate cancer. You would imagine that your chances of living just went up. You would be wrong. 12 years later, the group that did not have surgery had the same death rate as a group that had surgery. More telling is the fact that they had the same death rate from prostate cancer. How can that be? Think about how annoyed you are if you just had your prostate whacked and you end up dying from metastatic prostate cancer. That's a ripoff. They should get their money back, at least. But here's the rest of the story. Those who had the surgery also suffered negative consequence. The pain and suffering of surgery, blood clots, infections, loss of ability to have erection in some cases, loss of capacity to control your urine flow. So here's your deal, right? And this should be on the informed consent. You have a risk of leaking urine, losing your erectile power, infection, dying from surgery, and there's no known benefit to the surgery. That's not exactly true. I'll clarify it in a moment. What is true is that doing nothing is a real option. But what's a better option, in our opinion, is doing things that are known to make the environment for cancer progression less rich. So what are we talking about? The Intellectual Medicine Prostate Cancer Program combines things that are unproven yet scientifically valid. This speaks to the art of medicine. We will never get studies done to prove the outcome of everything that we do. There are over 100 types of cancer. For each type of cancer, there are multiple cell types, and for each cell type, there are multiple stages. Now we're into the thousands. Can you imagine how much time, money, and effort it would take to do studies on vitamin C and all those cancers? And yet we know, based on in vitro studies, that vitamin C is toxic to 6 out of 7 prostate cancer cell lines. We know that it's safe. We know that mistletoe therapy has been shown to enhance immune function and has been the most widely used complementary intervention in Germany and Europe to help people fight cancer. We know that excess fat cells stimulate cancer. So we take this knowledge and we combine it into an approach that can be used to help support people that have prostate cancer but don't want to lose their gland. In our approach, we recommend vitamin C once a month, high dose intravenous. Why? The theoretical possibility that you're making little tiny cancer cells that are not detectable, but that the vitamin C can kill in the bloodstream. High dose vitamin C turns into turns into hydrogen peroxide that's been shown to be toxic to cancer, and yet doesn't harm native cells. Subcutaneous mistletoe, simple to apply, inexpensive. Control percent body fat. Yep, we got a solution for that. And the latest wrinkle is the far infrared saunas, and we have an article supporting some of its medical benefits as well. This, in our view, is a legitimate option for people that have prostate cancer and do not want to lose their gland and don't want to suffer the consequence. We've talked before about patients, a gentleman in our practice, diagnosed with prostate cancer in his early 50s. And at the time, the doctor said to him, "You must get your gland out." He said, "Doc, I'm not going to do it." And the doctor was apoplectic. He said, "This is suicidal. You're going to die." He said, "I might, but I'm not going to do it." Well, as time rolled by, that doctor died. The patient is now in his mid-70s. He's still living with his prostate cancer. Another patient in his early 50s, diagnosed with prostate cancer by biopsy. 10 years later, biopsy negative. What happened? Cancer just went away? Never had surgical or radiation treatment. This is a legitimate option. Other cancers worthy of consideration for this approach would include thyroid cancer, certain forms of indolent breast cancer. So there's a lot that can be done. People need to have these options. Now, one of my points is that unless you're a free and independent practitioner, you will have trouble expressing this option to patients. Because if you're not feeding the machine, if you're not making that referral to the Da Vinci whack out your prostate guy, you're not feeding the profit center for your hospital. And there will be a consequence. And there is a consequence to doctors that step out of that mainstream and that main flow, be it advice regarding cancer. One of the things that our patients have shared with us, Shannon, almost to a person, is not only are our bioidentical hormone patients often getting negative feedback from their other providers in some cases, but cancer patients feel like they're bulldozed. The minute the cancer diagnosis is made, they feel like they lose all control of their life with little consideration to details like quality and like, what are my options? Or what about vitamin C? And the reaction from a lot of mainstream doctors is to drop it like a hot potato because they're afraid to be associated with anything that is perceived by mainstream medicine to be controversial or not part of the standard of care. It goes beyond that. So we advocate for your freedom every week. We'll continue to do that. You can hit that button, but we got to circle back because Amy's going to tell you how you can become politically active and support your freedom and prevent intervention from the state. How do we do that, Amy?
Exactly. All right. So the two bills right now, 5541 in the House and 676 in the Senate. We want you to make sure that you are making your voice heard, that you oppose this overreach of power. You can do that simply by going to 2019.nohpvmandateri.com. You will see links that will send you a direct ability to contact the committee members. And we hope that you will look up your current representative if you don't already know them and tell them that you wish them to oppose these bills.
Thank you, Amy. And they can find that, is it going to be on our
It's on our Facebook page also.
It's on our Facebook. So you can go to our Facebook page, and as you're making your donation to support, to be a sponsor, stand up and be counted for. You can also send this information to the legislator And Amy, I want to make sure you come and get me when they send me to the gulag for my re-education. You gotta come.
Sure, no
I want you and your
problem.
no HPV comrades to come in a van and break me out.
We will totally.
Stay with us,
rally
folks.
behind.
Up next, Tony DeJesus and Big Blue Bug Solutions. I'm Dr. Petteruti, along with Shannon, wishing you 120 youthful years. Well, folks, thanks for being with us today, and thanks, Amy, for being in studio. Look forward to talking to you guys again next week. Stay young. We'll be there with you.